one thing I've done a good job of in my post-career is continuing to do things to put myself out there in different ways that I've never learned before. My top 5 rookie receivers in the game today, this is hard to just pick 5. My personal GOAT, flat out, he'd outrun you. You knew what was coming and you were unable to stop it. He always put his teammates first. We always talked about how to make the team better. Just having that overall flair on the football field, right? And the first catch is a 65-yard touchdown, and I'm like, man, I gotta dance now. Yeah, I do agree that he changed the game. I think on a couple levels. One, just having that overall flair on the football field, right? Like the way he came into the league, the blonde hair, the look, and also putting it on the field as well. The celebrations in the end zone, the showing his personality every time you got to see him play. And then secondly, changing the game in terms of, having a receiver be your best player and having him be the focal point of an offense, the focal point of an entire team. I don't think we've seen that shift that much where, for the most part or majority, the quarterback's your best guy, right? He's the one that's getting the most attention, that gets talked about the most, all of that. Odell kind of superseded that. And I think to the point where on every team he's on, he's going to be that, that guy that they talk about maybe more than the quarterback, depending on what team he's on. So I think he's done that. And then obviously in the fashion game with the cleats and the way he, the way from a fashion standpoint, the way he presents himself on the football field. The guy wore a richer meal on the field, for Christ's sake, a watch. You know what I'm saying? So like little things like that, whether he gets flack for it or whether they praise him for it, he's still doing things that kids and younger receivers emulate and want to become. And that goes to show you that that's one person that changed the game. Odell was great. He was a great teammate. You know what I mean? Anytime we were in the locker room, he was always attentive. He was always attention to detail. We would have fun when we had fun. He always put his teammates first. We always talked about how to make the team better. Like he was always a team guy. Like that's never been, contrary to popular belief, or people may think he's selfish or he's for himself, but he's the complete opposite. He wants everyone to win. He wants people to enjoy winning. He just wants to win. And it's almost to a fault. You know what I mean? He's so passionate about winning that sometimes it overwhelms him and angers him, and he wears his heart on his sleeve. So you see that comes out. But I think his heart's always in the right place, and he was one of the best teammates I've had for sure. He's taught me a lot of things, especially like going through injury, right? And kind of the mindset you have to get through those things and what that feels like going, as you hit these landmarks and these goals throughout your rehabilitation process, kind of navigating mentally what that feels like. And I think I've helped him with that just through conversation, not like, we're having like therapy sessions, but through conversation and just talking to him about how he feels, talking to him about where he sees the future, just getting him to think about, everything other than, his leg or his injury, trying to get him to think about things that are outside of the box, things that, keep him in high spirits. And I think that's that was the biggest thing for me. And then he's taught me putting yourself out there. I think one thing I've done a good job of in my post-career is continuing to do things to put myself out there in different ways that I've never learned before. And Odell is no stranger to putting himself out there in ways that, are different than the norm. My top 5 rookie receivers in the game today, man, this is hard to just pick 5, but I got to go with, in no order. I'm not putting them in order. I'm just going to give you 5. Henry Ruggs III is up there. Justin Jefferson is up there. CeeDee Lamb is up there. Brandon Aiyuk is up there. And then lastly, I got to go with Jerry Jeudy is up there. I think all those guys run every route tree in the book. I think all those guys have the opportunity to be, top tier Julio Jones-esque kind of guys. Maybe not body frame, but more so in ability and accolades, as they continue down, through their career. But I just think the wide receiver position is in good hands right now. I was just talking to somebody about it. Between the hierarchy of the Stephon Diggses and the Adam Thielens and the DeAndre Hopkinses, And you can't even forget Larry Fitzgerald is still playing in the NFL. Maybe obviously not at the high level that he used to play with at one point, but he's still, one of those guys that you look at. He's, history. Every time I look at him, like, you played 20 years, like, your knowledge of the game goes beyond anything I've ever seen. So he's still playing. And then obviously going back to the rookies that I just mentioned, the receiver group is in good hands moving forward in the NFL. And I'm excited to see how those hierarchy guys, Stephon Diggs and all those guys kind of end up, how their career kind of finishes off. And then I'm excited to see these young guys kind of relish in their moment and how they're going to proceed and kind of continue throughout their career and where they end up. Out of all of those wide receivers, I think I got to go with Henry Ruggs. Not because of the speed, because I definitely wasn't as fast as he is, but in terms of the route running and in terms of stopping on a dime, catching the football, being shorthanded, and then making a big play out of nothing. I think that those attributes are things that I did very well. Run after catch, breaking tackles. I think he does that at a high level, and I think he's going to continue to do that, especially if those Raiders are able to keep that core together and keep getting the football in space. Growing up, I had my personal idol was Deion Sanders. It was Jerry Rice. It was Michael Irvin. It was Emmitt Smith. Like, it was just that era of football was just incredible. But if I had to pick one, it'd probably be Michael Irvin. I mean, I grew up a Cowboy fan. Everybody kind of knows that, or at least they will now if they're watching this. But I grew up a Cowboy fan. My dad, kind of ushered me into that. So I was always a fan of Cowboys and Emmett and Michael Irvin and everything like that. But yeah, so I always understood how the Cowboys were and what they were about. And those players, that era was just so monumental to me. And I think my personal GOAT would have to be, Jerry Rice for me. Randy Moss is up there as well because of just, who he is and everything he embodied in the game. And, he changed the game when he came in, the same way Odell is changing it now in different areas in a different way. Randy came in and changed the game with his play, like flat out, he'd outrun you, he'd catch it over you. You knew what was coming and you were unable to stop it. So he changed the game in that regard. So that's my personal goal. It's got to be the Cowboys, right? Like, obviously grew up a Cowboy fan, but obviously being entrenched in the Giants organization just gives you a newfound respect. I've always had respect for the Giants, even back in the day as a Cowboy fan. But once I get embedded into the organization and the culture of the Giants and the ownership and the people, you just really understand that the Giants organization is really second to none. And it's safe to say I'm a full Giants fan now. I'm not a Cowboy fan anymore. But yeah, I think the Cowboys were definitely up there. You just always want to beat them. Jerry World, they got this big stadium. You always want to humble them down and bring them back down to earth as many times as you possibly can. So yeah, Cowboys at the top of that list. I came up with the salsa celebration. Well, for starters, I'm half Puerto Rican. So I grew up, my mom is Puerto Rican. I grew up in a very Hispanic household. My grandparents, my grandmother, dancing every day, whether it was Monday at 1 o'clock or Friday night at 8 p.m. She was dancing in the living room, having a good time. Music was always on. It was a part of my blood. It was part of my entire childhood. And with that, my grandmother taught me every dance in the book, right? Every dance, salsa, merengue, bachata, she taught me everything. So fast forward now, I get to the league, and I have a Mexican-American coach. He was the quarterback's coach at the time for the Giants, Coach Mike Sullivan. And he comes up to me. I'm getting my first start, undrafted free agent. He comes up to me. He's like, man, you got to do this. You got to represent your culture and your heritage in the end zone this week. And I'm like, Coach, I'm not. How you know I'm going to get in the end zone? Like, I'm just trying to catch the football, be where I'm supposed to be for Eli Manning and make sure I don't get cursed out by the time this game's over. And it turns out my very first catch in that game, I elude two defenders. I'm going up the sideline. And all week I tell them, like, yeah, whatever, I'll do it. I'll dance, whatever you want me to do. And the first catch is a 65-yard touchdown. And I'm like, man, I got to dance now. I can't not dance after this type of touchdown. It was just too many things culminating for that to happen. So I get in the end zone, I dance, I do the salsa. It just kind of happened. And then I look up in the stands and the Eagles fans were so upset. And I was like, yeah, I got to continue this. I got to keep doing this for every time I get in the end zone because it made such a splash. And then, yeah, and the rest is history. Yeah, I'm working with Pringles, and partnered with them to bring awareness around 20 years, man. 20 years, and Mr. P's finally getting an upgrade. He's getting a little bit of a glow up now. And part of that glow up, he wants to give back to all of his fans and people that have loved Pringles for so long. You can join a sweepstakes that runs through December 16th. And you can find all the information on Pringles Twitter. 5 lucky people will win $1,500 towards their glow up, right? So if you want to buy some clothes, a fresh outfit, a haircut, if you want a facial, whatever it is you want, so you can provide your own glow up. That's what Mr. P and the Pringles family is providing. So make sure you go to the Pringles Twitter to get all the information you need to join the sweepstakes for your chance to win.